I'm Julia.
And I'm Michelle.
And we're just getting better. This is a podcast for women just like us who are navigating life and just getting better. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Julia.
How are you?
So I'm good. How are you this week?
I'm great, man. The weather's breaking. That's a nice thing.
I love this time of year.
Always nice. Always nice.
And so you and I both love to travel.
Yes, we do. We do.
Do you have any like guilty pleasure reality TV shows?
Amazing Race.
Oh, that's what I was going for.
I don't watch a lot of reality. I watch food shows and things like that. But my guilty pleasure of any reality show I've ever wanted to be on is The Amazing Race. And it's because the way they travel, the different sites, and all the challenges. I think the hardest part of thinking about The Amazing Race for me is finding a partner who would want to be that fast on a trip. But I know airports, I know airport codes, I know how to drive a stick shift because it seems like every season no one knows how to drive a manual car. But what if my person doesn't like the crazy food? What if they can't eat it? And then I'm going to lose out of yes, the money, but I mean, the experience is more what I'm thinking about. The money is great as well too, but Amazing Race is it.
Are you, would you eat any of the crazy food?
I would have to. I would just have to get through it. I mean, I wouldn't want to. I don't, I've been to China. I don't want to have scorpions but I have cricket tacos. So, I mean, I might as well just kind of go with the flow and just embrace all of it.
Wow. Yeah. I have, it's my kind of guilty pleasure show and I love it. I mean, I would be fiercely competitive to the end because I want all the experiences.
The hardest thing I think we would have to bike a long time. Sometimes things, you see them biking really, really long. I can ride a bike, but depends on with that heavy backpack because, all your things have to be on you. And that's my thing. Can I ride the bike with all that stuff and get as far as I possibly can? I'm pretty good with maps, paper maps. So I think that is a good feat for me, but I'm not good with any kind of height. If something is too high, you've lost me.
Me too. I'm not bungee jumping.
No bungee jumping. no looking over the ravine. Yeah. No jumping out of a perfectly decent aircraft. No. Anything like that, I just won't do.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, when my kids were younger, I used to talk to my husband we should do this. We should try out for this. But the kids were too young, and it's when are we going to do it? And so now I think about it. I really do. I think about it. I think the thing that draws me back the most is I don't want the whole world watching me melt down and be yelling at my husband on TV.
Well, I think if you can't do that kind of traveling at that speed without a breakdown, it's just not I don't think it's humanly possible. I'm okay with the breakdown. Yeah. I'm just not okay with a breakdown of something that I could have gotten past. But I like to travel. I don't like to actually fly. So the whole
that's
jumping
right.
out of an aircraft, anything like that, I just know I just break down and cry and just go home.
Yeah, the heights would be really scary for me. Jumping out of something or off of something that is not meant to be jumped out or off of would be hard for me. And then also the food, eating some of the weird food things.
Yeah. And also having someone who can be on a weird boat.
Yeah.
Ferries, because some people get motion sickness, and I understand that. But yeah, that would be the hard thing.
But they just have the greatest adventures, and
I know.
I like to experience.
But also that's editing.
Yeah, but it's not also, but it's they get to experience the world, not just move through it.
But are they really experiencing it? I think everything's so fast.
It is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think what the show has provided is to showcase travel as a way of life for people who may not have thought about it before.
Good point.
And I love that they'll go and they'll experience the culture, and that way they can showcase it to people in their family. Their family gets to watch them, their friends. So it's always great for me for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is amazing.
It is amazing, The Amazing Race. Okay. I mean, with that, hey, you know what? Are we ready to start our first interview?
We are.
An interview? This is amazing.
With an amazing guest.
With an amazing guest. So I'm excited. I am going to read her bio.
Okay, yeah.
You ready for that?
Do it, yes.
Okay.
I'm so excited for this interview.
Okay. Dr. Akilah Cadet is the founder and CEO of Change Kadeh, an organizational development consulting firm that offers services that support embedding belonging into overall company culture, identity, and strategy. As a Forbes Next 1000 entrepreneur, her work is behind some of the biggest brands you use every day. Dismantling white supremacy through storytelling is at the core of her work as a leader. Speaker, creative director, producer, writer, editor, co-owner of the Oakland Roots and Soul soccer teams, and author of White Supremacy is All Around, Notes from a Black Disabled Woman in a White World. Welcome, Akilah. It's a pleasure having you today. Well, my co-host here, Michelle, has a great note that she's going to talk about where we actually are. Yes. At the studio here in Dallas.
Yes. In honor of you and to acknowledge the land where Julie and I are currently sitting. This is the ancestral land of the Kadeh, Wichita, Tawakoni, and Kickapoo nations. Additionally, the Comanche, Kiowa, and Apache nations lived and roamed in this area. We're a few miles south of the former Caruth plantation, which enslaved 21 people in 1860. And the area where we are was not ever a freedman's town in Dallas.
I love that. I love that a lot. Well, there was no enslavement next to me, which I'm happy about, but I'm on Ohlone land just to keep that tradition going here in Oakland, California. That was beautiful, Michelle. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Yes, it is thing that's happening more and more in Dallas. More events I go to are beginning with land acknowledgments. So it's wonderful. And you mentioned it in your book. So that's, yes.
It's already happening. Learning and unlearning has commenced. It's great.
And that's going to be our segue actually into your book. Because when you told me the title before I ever saw the cover, I remember going, oh, that's interesting. I remember you saying it to me and I was like, that's a title.
Yeah. It's casual.
To the point.
Thank you.
How long
direct.
How long did it take you to come up with that title?
The title? Oh, the title's it's a long story, but I'll give you the short version. So the original title of the book was My Love Language is Dismantling White Supremacy. And that was an Instagram post that became a t-shirt. But due to the products of white supremacy, because white supremacy is all around, I received a conditional trademark to use that title for my books. I'm always building empires. The racist, homophobic white dude, Gary Chapman, who created the 5 love languages, literally sent his lawyers after me, and I was, casually harmed and harassed for a year and a half. And I had to, even though I had conditional use, meaning when you go through the United States Patent Trademark Office or USPTO, they review everything that's out there and they give you a conditional use approval. It goes to this thing called a Gazette. The Gazette goes out in the world. And if anyone has anything to kind of dispute, they can go into a review process. Now, I've been harassed prior to even getting a conditional use approval, and I kept going because I am a Black woman and I am unstoppable. But once it came to the part of going into a further review, which meant 3 lawyers would look at what's out there versus the 1 lawyer who approved it, it would be anywhere from, 5 figures to 6 figures. And I don't have that amount of disposable income because I'm a small business. And so I had to let that go. And what I did in the settlement was I'm able to tell the truth, which is I was harassed by Gary Chapman, who is homophobic at best and definitely racist on a Wednesday. And I had to let that title go. So while I was writing my book, it took me 9 months to write my book. I was writing this chapter, which is actually called White Supremacy is All Around. That became the title chapter and the title of the book. I had this thought, I'm like, because white supremacy is all around. And I was like, Love Actually, like Love Actually. And it's one of my favorite holiday movies. And that's how I came up with the title. So I actually like it more and they can all suck it. And you may want to reevaluate the 5 love languages because it's rooted in heterosexual white relationships to uphold values of white supremacy. So I don't like physical touch.
Never thought about it that way.
I like to be held. We can just change our language because our words are powerful.
Absolutely. Learned something new already.
Wow.
Wow. Well, I have a question for you. So I loved
Yeah,
your book. It made me
thank you.
rethink a lot of things. It made me contemplate things. It also made me laugh quite a few times. And
Good.
there are times where it made me sad. Different things about it made me sad. But I love the analogy that you use about the cabin in the shack in regards to white women and the beanbag chair. That is so powerful, both of those.
Mm-hmm.
So would you break those down for our audience and explain the difference of the both and then how they both prop up white supremacy?
Yeah, so let's talk about the white supremacy beanbag chair. So if you think about a beanbag chair, we've all probably sat in one moment in time. Think of it as white supremacy. Think about a white person sitting in the white supremacy beanbag chair. It's comfortable. It's hard to get out of because it just, conforms to your body. Think about the white person in the white supremacy beanbag chair, and they're watching their favorite movie, eating their popcorn and favorite pairings, perfect temperature, living their best life. But next to the white person in the white supremacy beanbag chair is me, a Black disabled woman on the floor, because I was told I wasn't good enough for the white supremacy beanbag chair, the structures and systems of white supremacy. So I'm like, okay, fine, cool. So I asked for my popcorn and my pairings, and I'm told I have to pay for it when it was complimentary to the white person in the white supremacy beanbag chair. All right, fine, here's my money. And I enjoy the movie just like the white person next to me in the white supremacy beanbag chair. But when I ask that the next movie represents disabled people or let alone Black people, I'm told I'm the angry Black woman because I'm challenging, I'm difficult, I'm hostile. And that's essentially what white supremacy is. It's the structures and systems to make sure white people are set up for success. So they have the social determinants of health, access to money, food, healthy communities, walkable communities, opportunities to grow and work and, thrive, healthcare, right? And thrive. And so when I talk about the beanbag chair analogy, it means those who have more power and privilege, they are in the beanbag chair. What are they doing to actually make sure that the Latina or Latina or Latinx person gets a beanbag chair or gets the popcorn or gets the movie, because both big and small actions are what are needed to dismantle white supremacy. And so that's that whole kind of analogy. A lot of people on the top of like the white supremacy food chain, which is the heterosexual, non-disabled, cisgendered white man, they just chill in the beanbag chair. They're never thinking about anyone else. If it's a white woman, they have more opportunities of oppression, which we've seen with affirmative action, which we've seen with the overturning of Roe versus Wade. They have more of an understanding of what another oppressed group could experience, live like, or what they've experienced through harassment, discrimination, sexism, and patriarchy, right? So that's what leads to the hill analogy. So if you think about Black women and white women going up a hill, they're on this journey, they're on this hike, going up the hill, the elements are coming their way, but they keep going towards the hill because they know the plateau is there. They work collectively to get to the top of the hill. And when you get to the top of the hill, there's this mansion of a cabin that all the white women get to go into, and a shack for the Black women in the back. Think of the shack of a place that gives you the tools to make a fire and some processed snacks, and you're just gonna make it work. But that cabin has food that's laid out. The fire is already roaring. All the softness of the soft is there. And this is when white women show up. Because the first chapter of my book is white women are exhausting, because y'all are.
It made me laugh. And I did say to Julia, yes, we are. I know.
Yeah, she called me and said, Julia, I get the title, first chapter.
And so think about how white women can show up. So white women can say, oh, the Black woman we were just with, suffrage movement, the Black woman we were working with, feminism, they're in the back in a shack. So how about we send them some of our food? That's called allyship, right? And then we have a white woman who could say, like, there's more than enough space in this cabin for all the Black women to be in here. Come on in. That's what we call being an accomplice. They're willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable. They're checking their bias and privilege and using it for those who are further oppressed than them. And then we have the white woman who's like, that's not my problem because I deserve this. And that's white centering, and that's how white supremacy works. I am deserving of these things. Those are the white women who voted for Trump twice. Those are the individuals who are racist, homophobic. They're even sexist when it comes down to it. And so that's why I use those analogies. And Michelle, I really appreciate you saying you were sad and you were laughing and you were like happy and you were learning. And that is an important way in which people can learn. But that's my existence. Like some days I'm like, ooh, all the humor in the world. And other days I'm like, fuck this shit. And then other days I'm like, I got this. I can do this. I learned something new. And it's just this continuation. And that continuation of the feelings and emotions people have reading my book, reading those analogies, there's some magical way that they're going to connect to something. And that to show up better with how they move forward.
Well, with that, I know Michelle it's one of those books you text somebody and you keep texting them because everything is so different because, like you said, there's so many emotions that go through you and you're reading it. And I remember reading it when it first came out because I remember I'm like, I'm pre-ordering. I need to have it on all the platforms. And I remember she texted me. She was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then she said, but you were like, is it okay to feel sad at times? And I'm like, exactly. She said, but then I got really happy reading it too. And so that's the beauty of the way you wrote it, right? Because it wasn't just in this sad, sad place, right? Which brings me to like, you and I have known each other as friends and colleagues about the DEI space, right? And today I just learned that a new way people are talking about DEI the new term is quote unquote, didn't earn it. Have you heard that? I did not hear that until today on a podcast. Someone said it. And I went, oh, is that the new ways people are talking about DEI and everything? And with your work, and you brought up being the accomplice and being an ally, can you actually go into depth of those two for us? Because I know you went with the analogy of like somebody saying bring in, but for so long, the word ally has been used over accomplice. So some people who may listen are like, well, I thought I was an ally. Are you saying I'm not an ally if I'm not an accomplice, or am I accomplice and I'm also an ally? Can you kind of go into a little more detail about those?
100%. So an ally is someone who's learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. They're learning how to use their privilege to advocate for themselves and advocate for others. So you're immersing yourself in the community you want to advocate for. You're reading books, you're listening to this episode, you're listening to podcasts, and you're like figuring it out. But the thing that people don't realize is that allyship allows for comfort. Because if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. You're like, no, I don't want to be. I do not want to be uncomfortable today. So I just feel really good that I gave Obama money twice. I voted for him twice. And then I hired a Black person this year. So like, I'm good. I did my part. And that's what allyship is, right? So when we talk about an accomplice, it's taking it to the next level. So think about it this way. Columbus Day is also Indigenous Peoples Day, right? So there are some people who are like, it'll always be Columbus Day for me. And that's the ally. The accomplice is, I cannot celebrate the oppressed with the oppressor. So moving forward, it's Indigenous Peoples Day for me. I know my entire life it's been Columbus Day. Love the sails. Maybe there's a family tradition. Maybe there's a parade. But they understand that Christopher Columbus was an oppressor and there's genocide and lots of other horrible things that happen to Indigenous people. And so they're learning and unlearning and moving forward. That day is now Indigenous Peoples Day. An accomplice is someone who's checking their bias, they're checking their privilege, just as routine as brushing their teeth and putting on deodorant. They're doing it routinely. They're doing it every day. They're actively aware of how they're showing up. They're actively aware of how, particularly white people, realizing how they benefit from being the enslavers in this country and how that dictated everything we do, from the businesses we run, the cafes we go into, how we walk about the space and anywhere in society. They're benefiting directly, regardless if they were enslavers or not. They're benefiting from that. The other side is we have Indigenous people who are treated horrifically still in this country. We have Black people who are treated horrifically in this country. We have BIPOC, Black Indigenous people of color, who are treated horrifically as a result of the consequence of how this country was formed. And so an accomplice is saying, I'm willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable like Dr. Akilah Cadet is every single day. And that's the difference.
Wow. Thank you for breaking that down because I know sometimes there are so many words now. Like for me growing up, there's like a lot of new terminology. I have to admit that. I'm going through my own study of this all the time as well. Like the day I said I heard that on the podcast and I was like, okay, I need to do a deep dive into this. Like where did this come from? Where this work is, because so many things are getting cut, especially in the DEI space right now. And you brought up even like the women's rights, which also is another effect of what we're going through right now. And we are in a time where we can actually choose in November how we want to change a lot of things.
Yeah, but I don't, spoiler alert, Trump is going to win. And there's no way around that.
Oh, come on.
Unless something drastically takes. Well, I believe in speaking the truth.
Yeah.
I can die at any moment in time. I don't waste my time.
Yeah.
And that's where we are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So because we're in a position that people didn't plan on, which is they knew Trump would run again. But now Biden is not doing a great job with what's happening in Gaza. And so the voter demographic, we have a lot of Gen Z, Gen X, who don't like that. And their votes are going to go elsewhere. And if they go elsewhere, that's going to put the Cheeto back in power. And so the other part that a lot of people are overlooking is that we are literally on the hills of going back to Jim Crow. Yeah. So affirmative action being overturned, there's more voter restrictions that are happening. Roe versus Wade, DEI programs being under attack or eliminated, didn't earn it as a product of Republican campaigning of trying to take away the opportunity where people could have that positionality to be valued in spaces and places. Really strong marketing branding. Democrats don't have strong marketing and branding. In general, we are here. And so unless something actively changes, we are going back into a position where we're going to have less and less rights. This is why white women are exhausting. They are part of the problem of how we got here too.
Yes.
Because they pick and choose with how they want to show up. Pick and choose.
Yes.
And they go into self-interest, but white women know that they have more power being a white person, having a white ethnicity, white passing, than they do being a woman in this country, their gender, because they're not part of the food chain. By identifying more with identity of being a white person, they get more power of the white supremacy food chain. And I don't have to tell you, it's in my book, 44% of white women voted for Trump in the 2016 election. And then it went to 57% for 2020. Okay, so grab him by the pussy. Okay, he got 44%. Kids in cages got 57%.
Yeah,
because whiteness is the most powerful thing over gender. Think about that. And so, if we're going with the same trend, it will be minimum 57%, if not higher, because white people want to have power, and that's because people view white supremacy as the benefit of comfort for them, but they view it as something they should only have. Julia doesn't get it. Akilah doesn't get it. But they get it.
Well, and Frederick Douglass says something, that power never concedes without a struggle. So is it possible that the signs maybe are a little bit more hopeful than is evident when you look at it's the pushback, it's the struggle, and that if the counterpoint just keeps pushing, then it could tip over? Or
it would have to be a drastic shift right now, because we're seeing the biggest display of white supremacy in modern times, which is what's happening in Gaza. America is giving guns to Gaza, ammunition, money, not to Gaza, to Israel, and it's affecting Palestinians and oppressed people. So, yeah, if people don't understand how bad it is, a white man who's on active duty set himself on fire and literally unalived himself. Do you know how bad it is for a white guy to be like, this is fucked?
Yeah.
And so people don't really realize that, right? And so we all have a position to use our power of choice of how we want to show up with the things that we're seeing. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people who are like, that's fine. That's okay. Or I don't want to get into it because it's really not for me. Not realizing that it is. That it is, right? So what's happening in Gaza right now has a direct impact over the election in the United States of America.
What word do you have for people who say, you have, excuse me for cutting you off, but like people who are like, well, that happens over there. I see and hear that a lot, especially with the privilege we also have as living in this country. You say, well, that's happening over there. What do you say to those people who they see it or they hear it or they know it? They say that doesn't affect me.
My liberation is directly tied to liberation of Palestinians. There's no way around it. Any oppressed group in the world, Sudanese, Congolese, tied to my my liberation. There's an illusion. Let me say it this way. The best marketing and branding strategy in the entire history of everything is the American dream. Think about it, right? So that's why so many immigrants want to come to this country, because they see Hollywood, they see this, they see opportunity, they see the Jeff Bezos of the world, they see all this technology, they see what is viewed as freedom. But once they come over here, they're like, oh, wait, I have to drive Uber or Lyft for how long? Because I can't get, because of the racism of the, they start to see all these things. And this American dream is for white people to have the American dream, to have home ownership. I don't want to be too much of a nerd, but even just think about the war. Think about the GI Bill.
Oh, yeah.
We and Julia's ancestors didn't get access to the GI Bill.
Yeah.
That's why we don't have generational wealth right now. And so what is freedom here, right? So what people don't realize is that what's happening in Gaza, what's happening to Palestinians, is a reality for me here in this country. America's funding that. America's saying that's okay. So yeah, sure, I can go outside, I can have a job, I can go to a bank, I can do all that stuff. But when I go to the bank, I'm going to have a higher interest rate if I need a loan. When I get pulled over, I will definitely get a ticket if I not be maimed or murdered or accused of something that's not true. I'm going to go to the emergency room. My pain won't be believed. When I think about having a kid, I have to think about how that kid's going to probably deal with racism and maybe die, if not through birth, or if I make it to have the kid, because Black women die at 3 or 4 times rates more than white women. And then in general, this is where white women are exhausting. Women in this country have a horrible fetal maternal rates in this country, just in general, right? And so people don't see the connection. People don't see this is why I talk about Trump, with him coming in and what he wants to take away to give power to certain people is all tied to what's happening internationally.
And you brought up a point about, when you talk about having a kid in healthcare, and, you write prolifically in your book about being disabled. And for a lot of people, if they look at you, like if they see clips of the video, to them, you don't present as a disabled person, right? Right? You don't.
Well, let me just spray my neck with lidocaine so they know my spine is inflamed.
Right? So how is that for you as well? Because not only are you a Black woman, but you're also a Black disabled woman, and you're also a frequent traveler. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing. Like you and I met actually in Bordeaux, France. So I know you're a traveler.
It's fun, neat, cute.
I was going to say, it's chapter 1. That's where you met. Is chapter 1
for the very first? Yes,
we met in chapter 1.
We met in chapter 1. In chapter 1, we met in Bordeaux, France, and we were just living our best life, taking photos. I still got the best selfie that we had.
I know. We had a time. So I am a Black disabled woman. For listeners, I have a rare condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where my body essentially doesn't know what to do with collagen. Collagen is in everything, every single organ you have. A lot of people forget your organ is your skin too, but your inside organs as well. So ligaments, joints, muscles. So pretty much every joint in my body will subluxate to really go in and out or dislocate. I can wake up and not be able to walk on a foot, knee, ankle, hip, or my spine. My spine is hypermobile. I have hypermobile. My feet are super hypermobile. You have a lot of comorbidities too. So I have like arthritis, and I also have something called coronary artery spasms, where my body thinks it's having a heart attack every day. But the arteries in my heart just close because they want to, and it's due to the signaling of how my body deals with collagen. Collagen is in every artery, every vein, every vessel in your body. So if it close, I can have a heart attack. So I can have a heart attack and die at any moment in time, but I take medication to minimize that. And if things get really bad, I have to take nitroglycerin, and things get really, really bad, I have to go to the emergency room to minimize a heart attack or prevent it. That's why I'm very straightforward. That's why I use a lot of humor, because every day is my last best day. And so that's how I move in the world differently. I call it a cheat code. Don't recommend. Don't get rare disease. Don't do it. Do not do it. But because I have this lens of being a Black person, being a woman, and being disabled, I really see how white supremacy is all around.
Yeah.
Right? It is always there. So imagine being a woman with cardiovascular conditions, and I have 4, I gave you 1, and not believe. Because cardiovascular health, just for women, all women, talking about white women too, is our physicians are not fully educated. So symptoms of a heart attack for a woman include sweating, night sweats, stomach pain. And that's not the case for men. Most physicians are trained on the symptoms for men. Now, I'll get shortness of breath and I'll get weakness in my left arm. I'll get pain in my left arm. But I also have night sweats. I also, have stomach pain. So I'm constantly educating people between my rare disease, my heart condition, even in the place where I am not supposed to be the expert, which is the hospital, the clinic, the provider's office, and the emergency room. It is exhausting. So I wrote this book for people who have a fraction of my intersectionality, all of my intersectionality, relatability with my intersectionality, structurally, systemically, how I present, to feel validated, seen, and heard, maybe get some advice. But I wrote this book also for white people who have been doing the work since the murder of George Floyd, who read a lot of those how-tos, who are stuck in that place of allyship, so they can read these same stories and apply what they've been learning. See systemic racism, see systemic violence, see ableism, sexism, and understand how they overlap. That intersectionality or intersections of our identity, coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, come together. So that's why I do it. That's why I look fly as fuck on the cover, because as you mentioned, she's cute. She is cute. It was important for me to look incredible, to have a Black designer, to wear a cane. It's an accessory and a necessity when my body doesn't show up for me. For people to be confused, pick up the cover, see white supremacy, not know what's happening. Maybe open it up, read a little bit more, and bring it in. So all of that puts me in this really unique position of my intersectionality, where I also have the privilege of having visible and invisible, what we call dynamic disability. Some days I need a brace or a cane, and some days I don't need a brace or a cane. I'm also stylish. I'm also cute. And I also look healthy, right? Of what people deem to look healthy. And so if that created awareness, great. But it also allows me to be in spaces that my fellow members of my disabled community can't go into, because there's ableism too. And ableism is a direct product of white supremacy.
Wow. Well, that's amazing, because I know, like, when I looked at the cover, I just see power.
Yes.
Right? I see this beautiful yellow cover. I see you looking amazing. Mm-hmm. And I just see, like, powerful. Like, it just jumps off of the shelf because of that. And because of everything you said.
And your beautiful skirt, and you're just like, you just look tall and strong, and
Thank you. The skirt I got on sale. Even more important.
Even better. So when you talk about all of this, you mention a term throughout your book that I wonder how many people are familiar with this. Instead of calling people out, you talk about calling people in, and you reference it over and over again. So in this world that we're talking about, that we all live in today, how do you do that effectively?
Yeah. So people are accustomed to calling people out. Calling out is another way for cancel culture. Calling in is the opposite of that. So calling out is, you suck. Calling in is, okay, that sucked, and here's why. The data shows in my culture, from my lived experience, X, Y, and Z. Maybe you're providing data, maybe you're providing a story, maybe you're providing some insight of what the company is doing, or whatever it is. But that brings someone into an opportunity to learn and unlearn that leads to action and accountability, right? Because we all don't know what we don't know. Me, Dr. Akilah Cadet, international expert on all the things, white supremacy. I don't know everything. I'm not going to know everything. I don't have time to know everything, but I have time to listen. I have time to apologize, because that's free 99. I have all the time in the world to realize the intersectionality that happens amongst calling someone in. So it's like, hey, you said or did something I didn't like. Here's this resource. Here's in my experience. Let's circle back. If that person's going to be around you, circle back and see how they move forward. Because the other thing that we have that is free 99 is choice. So once you know something, for example, don't touch my beautiful hair. Moving forward, if you touch my hair again, you're making a choice. And now you're leaning into discriminatory and racist behavior, because I asked you to not do it. A lot of people don't realize, like, touching someone's hair goes back to the fact that my ancestors, Julia's ancestors, were viewed as property, as pets. I am not your dog. Do not pet my hair. Don't do that, right? And so if that person is doing that, they're making a choice. if they're not doing that, they're like, I'm so sorry. Like, I could touch my other friend's hair. Like, great. I'm glad you have that relationship with them. You do not have that with me. So moving forward, don't do it. And I don't do it. Then I know they hear me, they see me, and they're at least starting to value me. So that's why we want to call people in.
Do you find that people are more receptive to that? I mean, it sounds like it's kind of calling someone out maybe feels a bit more publicly shaming versus calling in, which is, like you said, giving them an opportunity to learn and grow. So they're more receptive to that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't give a shit. I will just tell you. I will just tell you what it is. And then I'm giving you tools. I don't have to do that.
Yeah. No,
I'm giving you tools. I'm telling you about my experience. If you want to show up and value me, great. If you don't, I'm going to go ahead and put you in your little racist, ableist spot, wherever you want to go. Go be there. But don't do that around me.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So, and I say that very matter-of-factly because it's not hard.
No.
It's not hard.
It's not.
It is more work to uphold values of white supremacy than to dismantle it. Because I'll say it another way. I would love to have white supremacy. I would love it. It'd be great. I would love to be able to move in this country, to get promoted for no reason, to be welcomed beautifully, because you mentioned traveling when I am in first class. I would love to be welcomed beautifully when I'm at the 4 or 5 star hotel, not questioned, to make sure I'm in the right space. I would love to not fight for my life when I'm in the emergency room. I would love to have a baby and not think about my gynecologist, and if my gynecologist isn't there when I deliver, will the other person be racist? And then the baby, what about the pediatrician? I would love to not do that. I would love to have access to fruits and vegetables and not have to live in a white neighborhood to make sure I have access to fruits and vegetables. And that's what I do. I live in the fucking woods and the hills so I can get everything I need. I have trails. I have my UPS store. I have a grocery store. I don't have to go venture in and find something. The reason why I work so hard to do so many things is so I can be rich. And if I'm rich, I can live in the rich community and get white people shit. If I'm rich, I can have a platinum healthcare plan. If I'm rich, I can pay for my massages and my acupuncture and all this additional work. If I'm rich, I can fly first class so I can have my inflamed body be straight. I can lay flat. I have to make so much money to just get as much as I can to be in white spaces, to know that I have enough money to be in there and still be judged. But it's a better alternative than me being poor and getting free healthcare and an aid as a disabled person and only having $3,000 in my bank account. So what I'm saying is, white supremacy means only white people are worthy of the thing. And I have to spend so much money to be worthy of something. So regardless if someone is responding to my calling in or not, I have to do so much endless work to get a fraction of what white people get in this country. I sound like this. I have light skin privilege. I have 3 degrees. I'm Dr. Akilah Cadet. I'm internationally known. I'm on a Forbes list. But my life is always at risk when I go outside, either by the built environment. Things are not physically designed for me as a disabled person. I'm being judged by anyone. So remember, with being disabled, society has to deem me disabled. So when I park an American Disabilities Act parking spot or an ADA parking spot and get out of my car, people constantly tell me I can't park there because they want to see me be disabled. Right? There's that. Then I'm a Black woman. So then there's that. Then I'm a Black person. There's that. And being a woman, there's all of these stuff that I have to carry. So I might as well make as much fucking money as I can. So when I get the judgment, they'll be corrected and held to account because I'm in those privileged spaces. And I have the money to take away from that space if they want. It doesn't make any sense, but that's the alternative. That's why a lot of white people are like, well, Oprah is successful or Beyonce is successful. It's like, great, wonderful, wonderful examples. But what about everyone else that also deserves the same? And not to mention, I know I'm on a tangent here. Serena Williams, I talk about in my book. Serena Williams almost died when she gave birth. And Serena Williams did everything that I'm doing for white supremacy, which is make all the money, be a non-threatening Black person, have companies, have success, have all of the privilege in the world. I'm not saying I'm Serena Williams, but even her life was threatened. Doing what white supremacy tells us to do, which is pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, do all the things that we need to do. And so, yes, I would love to just have white supremacy without having to do all that additional work.
I totally agree. Look, I'm in my, I know the kids and the young people, everybody calls it soft life. I'm in the ease of life. Like I am trying to make my life as easy as possible. So I totally identify with you on that. Like, how can I be near fruits and vegetables and pools and, Pilates and all that kind of stuff? I need all those things just to be Julia. And, it's I tell people this all the time, I need ease. If that means somebody's,
I need
ease. That's how I look at it.
I mean, you bring up something which is really important, which is this movement of a soft life for BIPOC people, particularly Black women, because our stereotype is to be strong Black women because we solve everyone's problems. Everyone. I can't even, I'll talk about something that doesn't have to deal with Black people, and white women constantly come in my DMs to tell me I'm doing something the wrong way. You're not talking about Gaza in the right way. You're not talking about this in the right way. Like there's this whole policing thing. So it is an act of resistance for Julia and I to rest.
Yes.
That's also a product of white supremacy. Just think about that. Like we have to fight all these systems and structures to just be in our bathtubs. If we say no to some things, we know the detriment of that no. White women don't have to carry that. Do you know what I mean? And here I am right now.
It is exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Yeah.
It's
You said in your book you were exhausted, and I'm like, I get it.
I'm tired. I'm cute still, but I'm tired. I mean, we had technical difficulties because technology doesn't always want to show up for us, right? And technology does not discriminate. It shows up. You're like, I'm in Zoom, and you're having a wonderful time. You hop to another Zoom, it's like your screen is not coming on, right? So we had tech issues coming into this, and both of you were kind enough to say we can reschedule it. I'm like, I cannot. Because I'm actively promoting this book, and also I have a documentary that's coming out, and I'm busy through July. And then people are like, hey, when are you going to rest from your book tour? I don't have that privilege because I'm not a white woman putting out a book. So I have to hustle nonstop. This podcast is important because it's the two of you. I'm biased towards Julia. I can be Black women. But your listeners may say like, oh my God, she sounds cool. I'm going to download the audiobook, the ebook, or get the book. They may come in to bring in some business. I need money. I need to pay for my employees.
Buy the book.
I don't have the privilege. I don't have the privilege to reschedule this.
Yeah.
Because I'm being pulled so thin to maybe make my life better by this book.
But speaking of book tour, we have a question in here because you styled yourself and doing all your hair and makeup for your book tour.
And you look good.
Oh my goodness!
I know. Thank you. Thank you. On one tour,
That's amazing.
You have a side gig as a stylist
or something like.
Oh, I legit do. I style people.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. The last person I styled was an artist who had a art exhibit, and so her name's Taylor Smalls, and so that's the last styling I did. But yeah, I style, and then I have retail fashion clients too, and so I'll go in and help their store figure out how to piece things together for the sell, or I'll wear their clothes. I also model. So,
have you always been like doing styling, or always been like fashion conscious, fashion curious, like into clothes and fashion?
No, I don't know what the political term is, but I was more of the not right term of a tomboy. So I was just like, I played basketball. I was wearing like skater shorts and like oversized tees. And then when I became an adult, I was like, I'll just wear black. And so I just wear like black. And I was slow to like getting into dresses where people deem as more feminine. But once I started going into my own company, and I've had my company for 9 years, I didn't have the rules and regulations of what I wore to work. I could just be myself. And I view clothes as a way to express who I am. And I wear clothes to feel good about myself. And I style myself and other people because it feels good to see someone like see their body in a way they couldn't see it, or how I would see my body. And then I'm going on my 7th year of being disabled, and wearing clothes made me feel better, even though I'm always constantly physically in pain. So I may have my cane, but let me tell you, you're going to be jealous of my outfit. Which is great, you know.
Shoes,
but I started
shoes.
And shoes. I do have a shoe game.
You also have a jewelry game, because that's where you and I connected about the jewelry. You have a jewelry game. Look at the hands, like you have a jewelry game. So
I have 19 rings. So I'll have a meeting on it. But and I told myself to stop. I told myself to stop at 15 rings. But this is the way I celebrate myself.
Yeah.
And I wear whatever I want, and I do whatever I want. And it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've already changed twice today, by the way.
But I'm glad you kept.
I love my clothes.
I'm glad you kept it like the
Yes.
Cowboy Carter for
Yes.
us, though.
For sure. For sure.
Of course. Yeah.
But there's a thing you always say, and when Michelle and I was coming up with the name, I was like, we're both in our 50s, and the first thing I kept saying was like, I'm just getting better, because I know like the way the world sees 50 is like I'm over the hill, but I don't actually feel that way. I don't take that on. I just take on, like you say, getting up every day, finding the joy, even though I'm exhausted in a lot of ways. But you always say, keep being amazing.
I do.
I've learned that from you. Keep being amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to tell our listeners, how are you also just getting better as you keep being amazing?
My ass is out a lot more now because the sheer trend is in for spring. And I'm just like, you don't get all of this. And people are like, I didn't know. It's like, I know, you're welcome. So, the one thing I'm doing for, to keep getting better is that I'm right now I'm miserable. I'm physically in pain. I'm empty. I have no light. I don't have hope anymore. I've given that up. And part of that is because of the state of the world. Part of that is because I've directly felt the impact of liberating for oppressed people, including Palestinians, and I've lost opportunities. I've lost clients. I lost my podcast. I lost a lot of things that I won't change. And I am like literally selling my body to sell this book. And I say selling my body because I had major surgery. I was out for 2 months, and then I was on a plane for a month, and now I'm back on planes, and I've put myself in setbacks that are harder for me physically, but also emotionally and mentally, talking about the trauma and the humor in my book and living the trauma and humor. It doesn't go away. The book isn't the end. It's not the end. I have already experienced lots of racism just traveling and just being out and about. So I'm miserable. And so what I have been working on since starting on this book tour, mid-January, beginning of this book tour, is figuring out how I can find joy again. Because even though I can laugh and I can be funny, this is all an illusion, which I'm really good at. And so I've been figuring out what can I do to tap into joy. And so I'm connecting back to things and changing my entire business model to do more things like my documentary that's coming out, producing more things, my directorial debut, doing more storytelling, figuring out ways that I can have more revenue generation that still are and dismantling white supremacy, but I'm not in the thick of things. Because I honestly don't have any more to give.
Yeah.
And I need something else to happen so I can keep moving forward. And so how I keep getting better is I'm telling the truth. I'm miserable. I keep getting better. I'm actively working to live my life. So when I slowly did my soft launch to come back into work after having major surgery, my blood supply was limited to my gastrointestinal tract. I couldn't eat. I lost 30 pounds in 6 months. And so part of my diaphragm was removed so I could eat. And that's part of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. My first day back, I had an interview with a hospital where I had surgery because I experienced racism and discrimination and I'm doing an active investigation. I had to talk about how I experienced so much discrimination from Lululemon, but a partner of mine that I work with who's an activist was being asked to do some work with Lululemon. So I had to talk about this is the first day, my soft launch day back into work. And then I had to go to dinner for liberation of Palestinians and solidarity with Black people. And I was asked to speak last minute. I wasn't scheduled. I was just happy. I went to have just food and there was a padded seat for me. I'm like, oh my God, you listen to accommodations? Yes. But after someone spoke about losing 100 of their family members as a Palestinian person, I was asked to talk and represent all Black people. I did my part and I cried or whatever. But as I was driving back home, I realized I can't do this. Like I can't be in a position where I'm pulled in so many different ways. I hope people get the message from the book. That's why I have it. But will the book do well? Will it be banned? Will it be a bestseller? That's a heavy weight I carried. The very next day, I had to run out and do meetings. I'm on a board, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing stuff. Again, this is slow Akilah coming back to work. And I was sitting in my garage. And it was dark. So I just finished having a meeting. It was closed. And I opened my car door and I turned on the engine. I just sat there because I did not want to live. Because this life isn't a life anyone should live. Physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain. the way I keep getting better is I'm finding a way to live life.
That's going to touch somebody, because there is somebody who's going to hear that.
Absolutely.
And they're going to say, I also am worth living. So I can also bless someone else. It's kind of like my mom used to say, we're blessed to be a blessing. The same way. What you just said.
Yeah. And I also live with major depressive disorder because I'm in chronic pain and I'm a Black person in this world and I do this work. Dismantling white supremacy just means that.
Yeah.
And so I'm literally fighting for my life. And I don't really fight. Like, I'm just doing all that I can to be here tomorrow. I'm doing all that I can so the projects I have in 2025 will come into fruition. But I don't deserve that. So that's why I am transparent. I get better. I'm telling my story. I'm putting it out there because most people don't have a fraction. That's what I said earlier, what I deal with. And they can show up differently and they can have a profound impact. Even with all the shit that I do, Michelle, you could say something and someone's going to hear you more than Dr. Akilah Cadet because they see you as someone they can relate to.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I know you're right, but it's sad, but I know you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So that's heavy. And so I'm doing what I can to reclaim joy.
Reclaiming
so
joy.
That's how I'm getting better.
Joy.
So that's how you're getting better. Can you tell everyone where they can find you online, on the web?
No, do not find me. Do not come to me. Leave me alone.
No, I didn't say find you like
not
like
at your house.
I'm just talking about like,
Instagram, social media.
Yes, of course. So everything is on any platform. It is change, the word change, and Kadeh, like cadet, CADET. You can find me on any social media platform, Instagram, wherever. My website is also Change Kadeh. My book is sold wherever you get books. It's there because I'm a Black disabled woman, have to tell people that I actually have a really big book deal. It's with Hachette. It's one of the big 5 publishers. I got paid a lot of money to write this book. So wherever you like to buy it, bookshop, Amazon, whatever, do it. Yes.
And buy multiple
copies. Buy the book. Buy multiple copies. Gift it. It's a great gift. Pass it on. And for those of you who want signed copies, very shortly we'll have them on their website and you can get a signed copy. If you want to wait for that, that's fun too. Nice. That's how you can find me. And don't come to my home though.
No, but your book tour is until July, right? So you're still on tour.
As of right now.
Yeah. Perfect.
Do you know who I have an event with? I don't know if when this is coming out, but have anyone watched Insecure at all? You watch Insecure?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's Array on HBO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I love It's Array. Oh, yes.
So I have an event with Kendrick Sampson coming up in 2 weeks.
Okay.
This beautiful, beautiful man.
Okay, tell Kendrick I say hello. He's from Houston.
Oh. I will. He just texted me H-Town all the way. I will tell him you said hi. But yeah, we have an event coming up. Talk about getting better. I got to sit next to this.
He is
this beautiful man.
He is a beautiful person, inside and out. I mean, he is really, really super nice. But
that sounds fun.
Physically, he's gorgeous.
Yeah, fun and distracting.
Yes.
Fun and it's not distracting for me because I'm also of the light-eyed, beautiful packaging. So I feel seen. You know what I mean? So I told him we're just going to be light eyes for justice. Light eyes dismantling white supremacy.
Nice.
Yeah,
and that's in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that will be in LA. But we are coming to New Orleans too. So New Orleans is happening. We're working in Atlanta, Sacramento, my hometown. We're going to be somewhere in Tennessee. We'll do more stuff back in New York. We're everywhere. So just check out the website for any future events or whatever I post on social media as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Kadeh.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I want to call you Akilah, and sometimes it's like Dr. Kadeh. I don't know which one to call you. So.
Obviously, Akilah.
I know, but I'm just saying. I like to give
that
people.
Works too.
I feel like when you're the doctor, you're the doctor, even though I know we're like.
I know you. I know you know that, so it's fine. Like the people that need to call me Dr. Kadeh or the white guys. Like we have shared intersectionality. I'm Akilah here. It is absolutely fine. I just don't want to be called Miss. Because my depression increased with a doctorate, so don't call me Miss.
Yeah.
It's either Akilah or doctor that goes along with it.
It. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
What a gift. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
Honored.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Yeah. And I hope to see you all in IRL soon so we can hug and we can laugh and
I hope
can
so
be
too.
awesome and great.
Yes.
Yeah, you both look fantastic.
Thank you.
So keep being your amazing selves.
We'll
You
keep
too.
being amazing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
That was so fun. Yeah, I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about her book, we talked a lot about the big stuff, but she also gets very personal in it as well. But I think for people who aren't sure that white supremacy is all around and what that means and what that looks like, I think walking through her life with her, because she doesn't say it's a memoir, notes from a Black disabled woman in a white world, but, it's her stories.
But I think that's one of the great ways of like reading a book like this.
Yes.
Is like sometimes reading a book that makes you uncomfortable, but also you can find laughter in it. You can find humor and joy in the book.
Yes.
Makes you a better person.
Well, I think so. And I think sometimes if it's hard to take in concepts, when you see stories and you get to walk with a person through their stories, then it all of a sudden it like solidifies. You really, you can't argue against, these are her experiences.
Yeah, those are her experiences. And one of the things, like even like we're both avid readers, and I concentrate, like I love like fiction books and everything. So I read fiction, nonfiction, audiobooks, any way a book can be presented. We both like it. But one thing I do as a Black woman is I actually read other women of color stories, the romance novels, the memoirs, because I want to read about their experience, because their experience is also different from mine. But it doesn't take away that I'm always learning something. I'm like, it's kind of one of those things. I remember reading the book Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. And I had noticed that it is based on when the plane lands in like Dominican Republic, everybody claps. It claps when you land. It's like, oh, and now I love that because every time, you don't like to fly, but every time the plane lands, I do a secret little like clapping to myself. So it's something I learned from, reading her books. And I continue to read, like I said, all the different stories that mainly, people tell. I want to hear their stories. I want to hear the stories, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. I just think that's my job as a human.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to take in other perspectives.
Always.
We have to. We're not, yes, we do identify ourselves through ethnic skin tones and cultures and stuff, but we are all humans. Yeah. And we're more alike than different. And so, when we understand different people's experience, then we are able to see that.
Exactly.
That we're more alike than different.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
How are you, Julia Coney, just getting better this week?
I'm just getting better by putting my phone on Do Not Disturb.
That is
that is huge for me. It is one of those things, but I actually use the sleep function to cut my phone off, or sometime during the day, I just put it on Do Not Disturb, just take a walk outside, which is very hard for me. And I'm finding that the more I do it, I started with 5 minutes. And I didn't want to try to do 30, but throughout the day now I'm up to like 15 minutes and I just put Do Not Disturb. And it's not that I'm listening to a podcast or maybe I listen to like something, music, but I'll just take a walk without the phone. Just leave it and just walk outside when I can, get some fresh air. That is how I'm getting better.
So isn't it interesting? So what I hear from you, oh God, I sound like a therapist, is, I don't mean to, but like you have a little bit of guilt or something, like what makes you feel like that putting Do Not Disturb on the phone, like somehow you're pushing back against something?
I'm pushing back against what if someone needs me?
Ah, okay.
What if someone needs me? And the 15 minutes is I need myself more.
Yeah.
And it's a break during the day. It's kind of like not like a lunch break. It is completely, usually it's between like 4 to 5. And I don't have a call. I don't schedule it. I had to literally put in my calendar, Do Not Disturb.
Yeah.
And then the phone pops up, like automatically goes to that setting, and I just do it. And it's the best thing I've done for myself in a long time.
Oh, good.
Outside of roller skating.
Yes, the roller skating. We talked about that. Yeah. We will continue to talk about it.
But
yes,
Michelle, how are you just getting better?
Well, it's interesting. You queued up something for me that I hadn't really thought about until you said it. And so I'm going to give my husband a little bit of credit for something that's been helping me get better. He has been coming to me a few times a week in the afternoon 3 to 5 o'clock, as it gets hotter, it's harder, and says, hey, do you want to go for a walk around the block? Because, we're both writers, and I usually don't have my phone on me. I put my phone away, and I'll check it once or twice a day, but I don't work with my phone by me. I know. I turn it off at night, too.
Yeah, we had that conversation.
My kids know if you're, arrested or in the hospital, call somebody else, because I'll get to you when I wake up. But so I've been like stopping, which is hard when you're in a flow and stuff, and going for just a short 10-minute walk around the block with him, and it's been really nice.
It makes a big difference.
It really does.
It makes a big difference.
It really does, yeah.
Especially when you work from home, because sometimes there's no delineation of like, this is a stop, this is a start, check in, clock in. You don't have that. So for me, that little 15-minute do not disturb lets me know I need to start winding my day down.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really hard because sometimes I work with the West Coast and the time zone, but I'm just like, nope. Everything else can wait.
Yeah. Good for you.
Good for you.
And so here's a toast to you, Julia.
And a toast to you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are drinking a Lambrusco in honor of Dr. Akilah Cadet. Yes. From Venturini Baldini. And they are a husband and wife owned winery, fully organic. The wife is the winery manager. She does all their international sales, and she's the vineyard manager. So she's in charge of all the marketing, sales, winery operations, and vineyard operations.
And when you read Dr. Kadeh's book, you will notice she mentioned a Lambrusco. So this is in honor of her.
Yes, and it's delicious. Lambrusco is a great wine. Pairs with all kinds of things. My favorite.
Oh, this is
pizza.
Fun.
Pizza.
Oh, this is definitely a piece of wine.
Salami.
Oh, so good. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
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 Thanks for listening to Just Getting Better with your hosts, Michelle Williams
and Julia Coney.
We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into some important topics impacting women today. To ensure you never miss an episode, click follow or subscribe.
Head over to isjustgettingbetter.com to sign up for our email list, as well as check out all the links and resources in the show notes. And be sure to follow us on social media. If you love the show, will you please help us build our community by sharing it with friends? Until next time,
keep just getting better.